Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to have Mr. André Viljoen with us today. André is the CEO of Fiji Airways, currently the CEO and Managing Director of Fiji Airways. In a past life, André was also the CEO of Air Mauritius, as well as South African Airways. So welcome, André.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Manish. What a pleasure to be here.
I was inspired by one of your keynotes where you shared your journey, your leadership journey as from a tormentor to mentor. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yes, so I'm obviously, as you know, South African and born in South Africa. And when I turned 18, we were conscripted into the army. South Africa was at war in Angola against Cuban and Russian forces. And it was full-scale war. We did 3 years full-time, and then every year thereafter we did 3 months. And I was involved for 8 years. So that experience of physical fighting brings about a certain level of aggression. Then I always joke and say my mother's Italian, my father's South African, so I've got some of that Italian flair, and that brings out a bit of aggression. I've always loved karate and judo. So I was actually a Springbok judo guy, and then became heavily involved with karate and got five black belts. Mm-hmm. And then you get a typing tool called the Enneagram, which types you, and I'm typed as a challenger, type 8, which is an aggressive, wanting to be in control individual. So I used to think leadership was being a tormentor, strong driver, my way or the highway, and I really thought that's the way to go. So that's where the tormentor comes from. The mentor is I met my wife, who is a neurosemantics coach and trainer, and on our first date, I was getting upset with a driver and she exposed me to understand I have an emotional control problem. And in order to have a relationship with her, I had to do a lot of inner work. And I did things like NLP, emotions, and basically on that journey, I think over time, moved away from this idea that leadership is being a tormentor to you get a lot more out of people when you're mentoring. Yeah.
And talking about the inner work that you did, André, yes. Can you tell us a bit more about that? Yes, what was the inner work you did? What were your realizations from it?
So obviously, the first thing I did was an NLP course, and it made me realize that our thinking drives our behavior. I never ever saw that association. When I was young, studying at university, one of the first textbooks we had was McGregor, Theory X and Theory Y. And that said that there are people that have to be told what to do and some people can think. But you never ever learned at university the extent to which your neuro drives your behavior. So your thinking. So the first thing I learned was all my behavior is direct outcome of my thinking. And if I become aware of that thinking and can manage the thinking, I can change my behavior. And that to me was the hardest part of the journey. The having to break down the delusions and be honest enough to admit, wow, I'm the problem. It's my thinking that's a problem.
So can you tell us a bit more now about the mentor part of your journey? Yes. So what's that about now?
So I realized the more you engage with people, the more you collaborate with them and co-create, the more you get out of them. I've learned my definition of leadership is giving people a purpose. So if you make them love their work, engage with their work, you make them feel valuable and contributory by including them, so that inclusiveness and that co-creation, it's amazing the different reaction you get from people. And that's what I mean by the mentoring. So it's not always teaching someone the job, which is the true definition of mentoring, but a broader definition of giving people a purpose and including them and making them co-create.
Okay, so giving them a purpose, including them, and making them co-create with you. That's a bit the essence.
So it's amazing how when you walk in and there's a problem, and I say, here's the solution, you can see the shutters close, I call it. But if you walk in and say, here's the problem, what do you think the solution should be? Now you can influence that. So if they're curious enough, you throw stuff around, and you're actually steering them to the outcome you wanted, but they make the decision.
So can you tell us a bit more about mentors who have been great mentors in your journey so far?
So there's no question, as I mentioned, that I think my wife played a major role. And what drives it is her curiosity. And she's tried to teach me, the more curious you are, the more open-minded you are. And I found that a difficult journey, but I'm progressing with it. Then I've had an incredible mentor in Nelson Mandela. So what happened was, when he came to power, we had an Afrikaans order leadership still at South African Airways. He made an effort to, over time, replace them with people who didn't have that old Afrikaans order history, but new people. Even although I'm an Afrikaner by surname, he saw a different form of leadership that excited him. And so he was an incredible mentor. Even today, still, I read a number of his books. There's a very special book called Mandela's Way. It's not his autobiography. It's a guy called Richard Steingold who wrote the autobiography, that lived with him for 6 years, writing the autobiography. And he actually spoke about the real Nelson Mandela. And it's got 16 behaviors in there that is unique.
Drawing the essence of his leadership style and mentoring style.
The authentic leader, what are those 16 qualities you get from that book?
And talking about authentic leadership, what is your version of it? Having been an exemplary organization leader yourself.
I think there's no question, someone who is fair, balanced, honest, but most importantly, you hold people accountable, and you've got consequential leadership. So if I had to say what's one of my biggest mistakes I've ever made, is when I've been tolerant of poor behavior, wrong behavior, because I think it's for the better good of transformation, and it bites you. Because you end up being so sorry you've done that it's actually more harmful to the individual and the organization than consequential leadership.
And last question, Andre, is drawing from your years of wisdom and experience, for a leader who is starting a transformation journey in his or her enterprise, what is the main advice you would give?
One, never stop learning. And self-mastery. So I strongly believe in those 4 domains. We call it systemically developing yourself. One, you. What can you do every day to be a little bit better? Little course. And today online you can learn so much on your own. You don't have to go in physical courses. Always learning every day a little bit. Secondly, committing to transforming yourself and understanding that you're highly deluded. We all are deluded. You're better than you think you are. So that's the thinking. You're so great, but you're not. How can you improve? Thirdly, is to have a level of humility and say, look, I need to learn. I need to improve. And having that open-mindedness. And I think if you have those attitudes, you're going to be a very different leader to someone who's deluded, thinks they're fantastic, they don't need to learn anything. I've got a few, and I always call them the dinosaurs. Okay. They're old guys who will not do NLP, will not want to learn. They tell me they know everything. But you can see the difference in their leadership to the others. What is leadership? One of the definitions I like and practice is giving people a purpose. If I make you love your job by engaging, collaborating, co-creating, you're going to be easy to lead. If I tell you what to do all day, if it's autocratic, you're never going to be a top performer.
Just execute.
And I think that, to me, if a leader can inspire people, give them that purpose, take 200% accountability, learn, you're on the path.
Thank you, Andre, and thank you for sharing. My main takeaway from it is the definition of leadership, I would say, is inspiring people and giving them a purpose.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Manish. Thanks.